Yo, call me Sonic Frontier the way I'm feeling freaky here. Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to the Games Cage. Today, and only today, we are here with a mega yap session. And today is going to be all about what you guys want to see in the next Sonic game. I figured, since we are now in May, we're basically in that like 1 month period between this month to max when Summer Games Fest is going to be happening exactly in a month from now, which is when I feel like the Sonic announcements are going to happen, hopefully, right? But I figured, I always yap about, what I want from the next Sonic game. But today I brought it to the people here to talk about, what they all want. So what I did is I made a tweet, asking people what you'd like to see. I got about, 800 replies, which is a little bit a lot. So obviously, I'm not going to go through 800 replies, but I want to go through a bunch of them. I want to talk just, have a nice yap session about, Sonic. So I want everybody to sit down, enjoy this almost like a podcast style video, and let's just get through everything. And please consider subscribing to your boy and supporting your content as we enter the extremely busy and hype summer period. So let's get right into this. Let's start with I'm gonna RNG grab. Let's go Jonas. Well, my boy Jonas here, guys. So, gotta be honest, a game with just Sonic connecting with a new character, and they go on an adventure with more new characters to fight and face. I don't think we always need every one of Sonic's friends tagging along. It could be something nice and sweet like Unleash on a bigger scale. So, I like this idea, sort of bringing it back to the whole Unleash style of, hey, one partner, like you have your partner for that game, like sort of even Black Knight style, where you have Merlina with you on the journey, or you have Chip with you. Just that sort of like, hey, I meet a new character, them and I are going to be taking care of this. We're going to go on a journey together. I like the simplicity of this. It's an interesting topic to even talk about too, because like for the longest time, people felt like, they were underutilizing Sonic's friends, and so now that we're finally starting to get back on that, it would feel weird to backtrack on Sonic's friends coming back, and being part of the main fold again, right? I would maybe like them to explore maybe more one-on-one time with Sonic's friends. Like, it would be cool, if a game was, all right, what if, this time around it really was like Sonic and, Tangle Whisper on a journey, right? Going to do something together, right? Or if it was like, hey, Sonic and Knuckles are going to do this journey. I kind of agree that, like, it's a weird balance with Sonic where, sometimes you want the cast to have their own, all of their stories because they're so important and fun, but you also do kind of want that, like, random character factor of it that I understand. Like, I get, both sides of this discussion. You know what I mean? I understand, like, what you mean when you want to, see that old school style of Chip. I like that. I like that idea. What else we got? We got Fire Shadow, my goat over here, saying multiple playable characters. See, again, this is the funny part. Is like we always get such widely different opinions. So, multiple playable characters that all play differently, like Vector, Cream Rouge, level design movement that takes advantage of Sonic and speed. Enough of you talking fuck! Sorry about that, but yeah, level design movement that takes advantage of Sonic and friend speed, like loops, rails, spin dash, more varied music, less EDM, a jazz, rock, right? Okay, this one's pretty simple. I'll grab one of your bullet points because I know a lot of people are gonna have multiple bullet points, but yeah, I mean, again, this is so funny, and this is the problem we're gonna run into and be talking about throughout this. Is like some people want it to just be Sonic and focus, others want Sonic's friends to be represented. Like I said, I do feel that like we should have Sonic's friends playable in some way or another, because I feel like we just got back to finally having them playable. And so I feel like to backtrack and go back to it just being a Sonic only game, I feel like we can go and explore that concept once we're down the line a little bit. I do feel like we're back into the, not growing pains, but we're back into the fold of, having Sonic and his buddies back, whether it's Shadow Gens, whether it's having Amy Tails, Knuckles playable in, what's it called? Not Dark Beginnings, and Final Horizon. So there is something to that I really like. So I see where your head's at with that. What else we got over here? Let's keep grabbing from the bag. What do we got? Oh, my goat Avatar. Let's see what my boy's saying. So if the next mainline game is Sonic Frontiers 2, the game simply needs to provide two things to me. I need difficulty options out the gate. Frontiers is still fun, easy, right? But if they can't do that, make ranking hard again. That 1-2 experience the first 2 days of Sonic Frontiers was peak seeing people showcase the challenge. Please find the middle ground on cyberspace stages. Personally, I'm okay with the last CS stages. If they found something that provides the quality levels were in Shadow Gens, I'm all for them. So, dude, this is such a good bullet point. Is I really do hope that the 1-2 experience, and even honestly, if you guys remember, Final Horizons had really challenging cyberspace levels. And even like Shadow Gens, right? When you did the extreme versions of the bosses, they were pretty difficult S ranks. I do think Shadow Gen still has, you know, fairly easy S ranks. But I kind of do agree that like I think S ranks should be hard. You know, I feel like no longer should an S rank be something that like you can get basically if you just don't die in the level, right? I do love that 1-2 experience where like, yeah, you saw people experimenting and showing how hard they would even work to get an S rank in that level. So I kind of agree with you like extremely on that note of like, yeah, that difficulty, hitting that shit and making it like right is the best way to do it, you know. And obviously, you know, with a game like Frontiers, there's always combat difficulty and bosses, which, you know, I feel like was fairly balanced in Frontiers. I feel like a lot of enemies were pretty easy to beat. So I do think like obviously they got to nerf the parry, because the parry where you could basically spam forever. So I do think more enemies need to be more challenging. I think combat needs to be approached a little bit better, because I feel like they're gonna bring back the combat. I don't think they're gonna let that aspect go. But I'm with you, man. Just make S ranks harder. Like that's a must. I feel like that's like a no question. I'll go Taco saying Chao Garden. It does feel like it's time, doesn't it? Right? It does kind of feel like we're getting there, near that time of like, what are we doing, man? What do we do with the Chao Garden? Now, my only thing that makes me think they're starting to care about the Chao Garden a little bit is like, I feel like they've been planting seeds slowly. Like, okay, in Sonic Generations, they added, you know, collectible Chao that you could get in all of the levels, right? They introduced that YouTube short series, you know, Chao Tales, right? They even had them highlighted in the Knuckles animation, you know, the little prequel to Frontiers where he's flying through Sky Sanctuary and he sees them. I feel like they've been trying to involve the Chaos a little bit, you know, more and more, which is pretty nice. But I just like, I don't know. I feel like they don't want to commit to the Chao Garden unless they're playing, you know, unless they're remaking or having Sonic Adventure 2 there. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's the short end of it. I think Iizuka and the team see the Chao Garden as a genuine like part of the Frontiers, or like the Sonic Adventure formula, and I feel like they don't want to bring it back unless, you know, they're making Sonic Adventure 1 and 2 remake. So hopefully they do, but again, I'm kind of with you where I think it's not gonna be there. I'm saying I'm with you as if you said that, but I kind of feel like we're gonna have to wait a little bit longer. Ooh, shout out Corn Art, the great artist. A mini map, more NPCs, side quests that deepen the lore world, and my #1 dedicated customization option on outfits like Mario Odyssey. So let's address these. A mini map, I do agree with this, right? This is one of my base criticisms with Frontiers is I get they were going with the minimal HUD, but there were a lot of times when I wanted to find something or look for something that like I felt like I constantly had to like pause, you know, to find something. So I'd be okay with like an option at least for a mini map. NPCs and side quests, I do think this is the thing that we really need. You know, this is like my hyperfixation about what you're saying here. Is like I 100% agree that like a mini map is one thing, but like NPCs and side quests feel like a must in this next game, right? Whether it's humans, whether it's other Sonic characters, like I really do think like it would be such easy work to like incorporate some Sonic characters as side quests. Like I feel like even the Chaotix would be a great side quest. Imagine you got to a town, the Chaotix were there, and it was a side quest to just help them, you know, fight an enemy of some kind. Where they're like, hey, we're trying to find this mystery. You go around the town, you know, you find some hidden enemies, you guys beat them, you help them, boom, get some XP. They drop some, you know, lore and conversations about what they're up to, you know, what they've been doing on this journey. Like I really want this to be fleshed out. I mean, imagine you found Tangle in the jungle and she's like, hey, I'll race you through this jungle if you want, you know, and you got like a mini side quest with her, right? It's like stuff like that where you can incorporate the cast, because it is really big, and like again, realistically you cannot have a game for all these characters because there's so many. The best thing I feel like you can do is start naturally integrating them into these games by having them be side quests or characters you see on a mission, you know what I mean? So this is the #1 thing I want. Of course, obviously I agree with you. I want the customization just like they did. Hey, my boy Spooky Nate says, I would like a change in music. The EDM and rock are nice, but a return to Sonic's roots of New Jack Swing, funk, and all that would be nice. The rock and EDM especially have gotten a little tiring. Yeah, I think this is a sentiment we've all had. You know, I feel like Otani and the team have been very much into, you know, the very like, you know, especially the EDM, right? You know, the electronic music has been around since Forces. And even, you know, in the cyberspace stages of this game, and even stuff like, you know, Crossroads, like they've definitely had a bit of a kick with the EDM music, even in Shadow Generations. A lot of the remixes are EDM style, and I agree, right? I do want more experimental tracks. I want, you know, some jazz music. I want like a lot of different forms of music to come back and be integrated into the game. I like, you know, I feel like the rock can stay, right? Because I feel like that is like such a big part of Sonic. Like I feel like the rock music is a big identity, at least for even Sonic sections. But yeah, have a lot of character themes, be, you know, different types of genres. Again, you know, bring back that style. Like I'm with you. I feel like a variety in the music would be great, especially because like Sonic Frontiers was so good about like the music. I thought the island motif changes were super beautiful, right? Like you guys know that. And I thought the what's it called, the boss themes were fucking incredible, as you all know. I mean, I love Undefeatable and all those tracks. They've become iconic to Sonic. But yeah, I'm with you, bro. Like I do feel like that, you know, next evolution of music, which I think is going to happen. I do think Otani and the team, you know, Jinsono and all of them are going to cook like a crazy soundtrack for that next game. I think they've heard the feedback and they know, bro. My boy Sonic over here says, I do think enough is enough. We have the building blocks from Frontiers and Shadow Gens to make incredible levels and open zones. We just need that magic Sonic sauce that's been missing. We need proper rolling and momentum. It would push the movement and fun so high, it's crazy. Yeah, this is the talk about movement and momentum, I think, you know, is something that I feel like has been massive feedback for a while now, right? Like I feel like it's something that people talk about constantly as momentum-based movement. And I do feel like I would be shocked if momentum was not integrated into the moveset of the next game, because like I feel like, you know, when even the director of Sonic Frontiers was all over Twitter answering a bunch of tweets, I feel like one of the biggest things he heard, you know, people talk about was momentum based physics, you know, and having it so that, you know, if you roll down a hill with enough speed that you can get to higher heights and stuff like that. And I feel like that is important. I do feel like it's like, I feel like the next game would almost, you know, change how you even want to level up, because like maybe there'd be a cliffside that like you can't get to with enough movement, right? And then I really need to upgrade my boost, because if I get enough boost to go down that hill, then roll up, I can get all the way to this like hidden cliffside, right? Like stuff like that that could, you know, really make you want to level up and, you know, go for that extra momentum based movement would hit really hard. I do think they need to strike a balance, because there are times, you know, where I play these fan games where like it's all about the momentum based movement, and sometimes it doesn't feel natural. It feels like a little too loose or a little too wonky, right? But I think there's, you know, they're a big company. I'm sure they could figure it out. But yeah, I'm with you, Sonic. I would like that extra bump, please. All right, we have one of our number one criticisms from Frontiers over here I'm seeing. The big thing I want is it to have platforming segments actually feel like they're part of the world instead of random bullshit go all over the sky. Which, honestly, this is fair, right? I really like Frontiers. I really like exploring that world and everything. But yeah, I mean, obviously, one of the first conversations that popped up was it did feel like it was a lot of air platforming and not as natural with the platform. Now, you know, of course, I still want to have, you know, grind rails and things around, but yeah, I would like more things integrated into the natural environment, right? That would be really cool. Or even like grind rails and platforms that looked like they were part of each biome that you were in. That would hit a lot. You know, and obviously the pop-in was always a big issue with base Frontiers, so hopefully they can fix that up. But, you know, I'm with you, right? I want the next game to have more of an evolution of how areas, you know, are built and designed, as opposed to sort of like, here's kind of, these are just kind of themed areas that could be skinned as any area, right? And you wouldn't know the difference, you know? It's like, what sets this island apart from another besides like where the grinds are placed, right? You want places, you know, to incorporate the theming of the area. So again, I always give them a pass for Frontiers because I'm like, all right, they were going for this sort of like realistic area kind of vibe, you know, to juxtapose Sonic a lot. But for the next game, I want, you know, that more, you know, saucy look, you know, that even like the classic games are known for, right? Or some of the older games, like you know, a game like Sonic Generations does such a perfect job of like making you feel like you really are in, you know, Rooftop Run or a City Escape or any of these levels. All right, we've got Leaf over here saying, if we're going to keep getting open zone games, then I want the environment and physics to work in tandem with each other. Give the player opportunity to traverse the map with genuine skill and creativity, like pinball physics and badnik bouncing. I want this type of energy in 3D. So they're basically saying, you know, they want more, like, it's kind of like touching on the last topic we talked about. You basically just want more cohesiveness with the, you know, level design, right? You want it to be that, you know, I can bounce from a bounce pad into an enemy, you know, roll into a platform, you know, do, you know, the whatever mechanics you've got. I kind of agree with that. You know, like I said, I do think sometimes too much freedom can be, I think that can be daunting for like casual players, right? I think like there's a lot of Sonic things and movements and fan games that make it so that this kind of movement is very difficult for people to pull up. But as long as it's optional and it's possible to do, I think it is very motivating for fans that really love this series and love these games to want to move around this way. So I'm kind of with you. Again, I feel like the momentum and badnik bouncing and stuff like that would be really cool. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I like where your head's at. You know what I'm saying? You are kind of cooking. We got Mr. Bowser over here saying, I want the next game to feature an open world with interconnected unique zones, not generic locations. Basically Mario Kart World, but with Sonic. Make stages open and being more platform focused with the ability to switch between characters instead, instantly like Dream Team, and customizable movesets. So yeah, I also wonder about this, you know, do I want the next game to be like, hey, here's one big interconnected world, or do I want it to be different biomes? Because there is a double-edged sword with this. You know, you bring up Mario Kart World. One of my biggest problems with Mario Kart World is that because it's an interconnected world, it does feel like the game doesn't often have unique locations, right? I feel like things have to seamlessly blend in with each other. You have some unique areas like Boo Cinema, right? Or, you know, Sky High Sunday, but a lot of places are like, here's the desert, here's the lava, here's, you know, the ice, and they sort of look very generic, right? Whereas like, I feel like if you have different biomes, right, a la a Mario Odyssey, right, you could have a place that looks cartoony and then a place that has a different vibe to it. One place is more industrial, one place is more, you know, again, colorful, right? Potentially something like Music Park, but for a Sonic game, right? Or having a city area. Like it is a tough decision to think about what they want to do. Do they want to go with the one big interconnected Sonic world where I can really feel the freedom, right, and run around the world? I feel like Sonic Freedom would also go hard as a name. I'm sure fans have used it for stuff, but still. But I do think, like, regardless, that that's something they could really lean in on, right? It's just that extra aspect of like, do we want to do open world or do we want to do separate bombs? I actually love to know like a lot of your opinions on that. Would you like one big world that looks a little different but feels connected, or different bombs? I actually don't know which I would like to go with. That's a toughie. Next up, we've got Mega Crash the Hedgehog. You're saying, it's been talked about before, but I wish we could see the cutscenes get an upgrade in the character animation department. Give me something like Crash Bandicoot 4 and really let these characters express and emo. It makes the cutscenes more interesting throughout. I mean, yeah, we've talked about this a lot over the years, you know, and I think people want that elevation in the cutscenes, right? There's definitely a feeling with Frontiers that I do think that they solved a bit more in Shadow Gens, to give them credit. You know, like we've talked about, like with Shadow Gens, like you could see how angry Shadow gets, or like when he's in shock, like you see his eyes get his like pupils dilating, right, as his eyes widen, like, and obviously the animations you get in the mid-level transitions, like I do think they are actually listening, and now it's up to them to give us maybe a new model and then integrate that stuff with the entire cast and everything, because I really do think that they did lock in with that with Shadow Generations. I do think that's something that is not as far-fetched as you would think if you played Shadow Generations. Alright, so more of this Splatoon Sunken Scroll ass shit. I like this, but don't make it essential for the story. I didn't really like how most of Eggman growing fond of Sage was only in the memos. Okay, I can kind of agree with that. Yeah, I do think like more stuff that feels lore-like could be in these book templates, kind of like they did in Shadow Gens. But yeah, the Eggman memos did feel like, hey, this is kind of how you find out that Eggman really is, you know, seeing Sage as his daughter, but you don't really visualize that in the game. So I do think that key elements of the story should be like part of the story, and then lore stuff should stick to lore stuff, right? And that should be, like you said, a sunken scroll type thing, a page you find of a book, and a collectible in that sense. I think that like adds a lot more, because yeah, I agree, like there's so many games where, dude, like I just played Pragmata, right, which is hysterical, by the way. If you've played that game, if you should play it, it's literally just a game about Shadow and the Bible Lizard, which is really funny. But like, yeah, in that game had a bunch of audio logs and things that I just didn't really care about, you know? And so, yeah, I feel like it's the same thing where, like, if you don't care about Sonic, you're not going to listen to those audio logs. Same way where, like, I'm not deeply invested in Pragmata enough to listen to those. I listen to the audio logs and stuff because I care about Sonic, but if you don't, it's a hard way to get yourself invested in something like that. All right, some Metal Sonic love, I see. I want Metal Sonic to get some character development and actually leave the Eggman Empire permanently. I don't mean he should just join Team Sonic, but he really deserves something after being broken down over the years. He needs a voice and freedom from being Eggman's servant boy. I agree with that to an extent, right? I do kind of agree that, yeah, this thing where, like, Metal Sonic always needs to go back to Eggman. It could probably stop if they wanted to. I feel like they could give Metal Sonic his own life. So yeah, I do think that's the big one that, like, is going to come naturally. I feel like via Sonic Movie 4 and whatever the next Sonic game is, I do feel like the same way we got a lot of love for Shadow, we're about to see a lot of that love go to Amy and Metal Sonic, you know, giving them a lot more, fixing their character, giving them more spotlight that they may not have had. With Amy, it's more about fixing a bit of her writing, and then with Metal Sonic, it's just about giving him stuff to do, because it's been a while, and yeah, he should not be relegated to jobber, right? He should be a terrifying problem to deal with that, you know, Eggman should utilize. And hopefully Sage and Metal Sonic working together makes something pretty psychotically terrifying, in my opinion. Alright, so Sonic Frontiers, but make the aesthetic look like Sonic World instead of a gray, dreary landscape. Yeah, I get that. Also, I want Sonic Adventure's treatment of playing different characters whose stories are all happening at the same time, leading up to a confrontation. I am kind of with you. I am kind of on your side with that, of like, I would like that old school Sonic approach of like, all right, what if it really is like, hey, these characters, you know, are all you have to play different campaigns, right? Which, you know, ultimately then leads to the big final moment, right? Instead of having them be part of the story. To be fair, I don't know which one would be better. I do kind of like the idea, though. Dude, could you imagine like just a modern version? Like, what was the last time we had the sort of like multiple campaigns you play that lead to the big moment? I mean, it hasn't been a thing since what, like maybe it was Sonic 06, right? Like, and I feel like, dude, Sonic Shadow Gens had the perfect opportunity, I feel like, to fix that. Could you imagine how fucking mind-blowing it would have been if you beat Sonic Gens, you beat Shadow Gens, then when it booted you back to the menu, there was a third icon that said true final story or something, and like it teased the future. It did so, I don't know. I feel like they had a great opportunity there, considering the game does like a hero and dark story kind of thing. But yeah, this second half, though, I do kind of agree. I would like to bring back, you know, the other character campaigns leading to a big finale. Alright, Capsters over here brings up a very valid one. A good combat system. Frontiers combat leaves a lot to be desired, in my opinion, especially since a lot of the special moves don't really feel super useful when compared to a normal 1-2 stomp. Also, have the game star Knuckles because he's the coolest. Give him the Knuckles Bonanza. So, of course, I agree with you. I always want more Knuckles up. But on the discussion of the combat, I agree with you, right? Because my thing about the Frontiers combat is, I've always said, what I like about it is flashy, right? it does prioritize being flashy, but you know, a lot of times when you end up fighting bosses, right, like when you go to Giganto, yeah, the best optimized combo to fight Giganto is like jump, jump, stomp, jump, jump, stomp. That does the most damage. And so enemies that potentially have weak spots, or you have to use a certain move to damage them, like more stuff like that, I think would really make you think about what combat move you want to do. Obviously, get rid of the unlimited parry system, but yeah, they need to find a balance, because I do like, you know, the shininess of Sonic's combat in Frontiers, where you are doing these crazy moves like cross slice into the spin. Like when you're like, Sonic Frontiers' combat is interesting because, like, if you wanted to be flashy, it can be flashy. You know, you could do the spin into the jump kick, into the cross slices, into like the airwave, right? But it all kind of feels more like you're just doing that to do that, when really most of the fights you can beat by like square, 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 parry, square, 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 parry, right? And so, yeah, maybe emphasizing a combat system where, you know, you might be able to use different moves on certain enemies, or certain enemies won't be affected by certain moves, or you really got to focus would go hard. I'm sure that's something that they're working on. Got Sendo here saying aesthetics that have staying power rather than basic serviceable themes. Crossroads knocked the original zones out the park, so I have hope. I agree with this, right? Like that was a big thing that made Crossroads stand out a lot. I was like, huh? They didn't just go with, hey, let's make every Crossroads an old Sonic level. They went for their own stuff, you know, like Digital Circuit, right? Or what's it called? You know, Wonder Museum. That's such like a unique location to it, right? Like all these different places you went to are like Dompa Factory. There was even, of course, I'm blanking on the one I did, like the Pumpkin Mansion level that they have. Like it is very cool to see that Crossroads sort of gave you like, hopefully gave you a preview of what's to come, you know, and that's what makes it really exciting. I feel like, you know, if any of the levels feel like that in the next mainline Sonic game, I think they're good, you know what I mean? Because they really cooked. Yeah, I love like the magma area that they have as one of the Crossroads. Like they really can go crazy with a lot of the Crossroads, or sorry, the areas in the next Sonic. I mean, honestly, they could even use some of the tech from Sonic Crossroads, you know, where you run through the ring to go to another area. Something like that, but for platforming levels would go really, really hard. And I agree. Like I think we can all agree, in the next game, no one wants to see a green hill, right? I feel like if we see a green hill, we're going to throw up, or see chemical plant again. I think it really is time next game to never see those places for at least like a long time, right? Hello, Kasai does art. Hello, Senior Games Cage. It would be very epic if Sonic had a better model. I don't mean in the games, I just mean in general, bro. They had the same model for like 20 years, pack it up. Yeah, I think this is the one that, you know, it's probably going to come up a lot in the replies, is Sonic's model. I think that is something that Kishimoto took a lot of note of when he was on Twitter, you know, talking about the game. And, you know, look, I don't mind Sonic's model. I like it. I think it's fine. But I do think, you know, that's not enough, right? I think it should be more than fine. I think it should be a model where, like, it can be a lot more expressive. It can do a lot more exaggerated movements and feel natural. You know, the quills need to be adjusted a bit, the color hue, because I do agree that, like, Sonic in these games sometimes has this like texture to him where you feel like you can, like, he's almost styrofoamy, right, with the texture they're using, whereas I wanted to go more like natural full blue with how they do it in the next game. But yeah, I mean, this is the #1 criticism I'm sure we're gonna see a lot of, and I think it's the thing they hear out the most. I mean, I will say this, of anything that the next mainline game is doing, I would be shocked if he didn't have a model, a new model, or an extremely updated one. Like that's almost, I feel like, the #1 feedback thing people care about. It's just they want Sonic to look better, you know? And like I said, I would be shocked if that's not what we get in the next game. But I'm with you, bro. I want that. Ooh, all right, really good one from Boyo here saying, Sonic defeating his villains without the Chaos Emeralds. I feel like the game has this formula of find all the Chaos Emeralds. It feels bland nowadays. And with Frontiers, it feels empty. And I feel like Sonic is weak without the Emeralds, even though his base is strong. So this is an interesting topic, right? Because I do think they run into this weird issue where like supersonic is hype inherently, right? That is how you do big scale bosses where you have flying in the air boss fights, right? Like at the end of the day, Sonic is speed, but it doesn't leave much for like a big grounded battle. Now, you hear me out there, right? They should invest in that, right? We should get sick, grounded battles. Maybe what they could do to balance that out is, you know, bring back rival battles where you are grounded, right? And you are just the two characters one-on-one on the ground fighting in the terrain, right? Or having more grounded bosses. And maybe, obviously, I think with Sonic Frontiers, we were in a unique position where, like, all right, each area you went to ended with you using the Chaos Emeralds for a fight. What if at least for the next game, maybe that it is like the final resort, or even something would be sick where it happens that like you get the Chaos Emeralds from the final fight, but like, you know, it is not enough, or they get wiped out, and then it really does end with like, all right, Sonic, you know, no emeralds, has to take care of this one more battle type of thing. I do hope they subvert the expectations there, and like, hey, it's not just supersonic, or, you know, we have some kind of new form. But like, yeah, I do agree that like I don't want the next game to just be, hey, let's get the emeralds again, let's have supersonic fights again. I don't mind it as long as it's good. At the end of the day, I just want something that's good. But yeah, I do agree that I would like something a little bit more than just let's get the Chaos Emeralds, let's fight the boss. We have Kaylee saying, I do want to see some good stories like SA2 and Unleashed, since for me, if you agree, many stories just bring the lore and personality of the characters. I can somewhat agree with that, right? I do feel like Sonic Frontiers, a lot of its good with its story comes from like lore, right? It's like a lot of stuff about these ancients, which is really interesting, and it's about more of the characters. But yeah, like a true Sonic story that has a plot twist, right? Like a big change, you know, something where you're like really genuinely curious, like how is this going to play out? What is coming up next? Is something that I definitely yearn for, which, to be frankly honest with you, I even think Unleashed's story, like looking back, is like, it is very simple, right? Because it is just kind of like, hey, we get the Chaos Emerald, we go to another area, we talk, right? Like, but yeah, I do think like a high stakes, you know what it is? Like, I want, yeah, that high stakes feeling, because what I liked about Frontiers was, you know, that when you get to Rhea towards the end, you feel the high stakes of like, all right, Sonic is getting corrupted by the virus, right? Like it's getting into panic mode. You want to progress because you're worried, and you're like, I need to know what happens now, right? And so I want that sense of urgency, right? Because especially Sonic Adventure 2, like it feels like the entire game is an urgency, right? Like, all right, we got to get from this point, we have to do this, right? I have to find this, like Sonic, I got to get the Master Emerald pieces. Sonic has to go to this area. He's got to go to Metal Harbor, you know, to catch this rocket. They got to go to the pyramid area to catch, you know, to go into space and all that stuff. So there's a lot more high stakes. I want that kind of energy for the next game where you really feel like the weight of whatever they're dealing with again. We got Junkie Sonic over here saying quality over quantity. Sonic Frontiers tried so many things and tried cramming in as many gimmicks as it could, on top of having way too many mid-cyberspace stages instead of a handful of great ones. I need them to refine everything that worked well and axe all the tag stuff. Yeah, I think this is a general problem, not just with Sonic, but with a lot of video games that do open worlds. I feel like inherently open worlds have become very much like, hey, here's a million things you can do, right? Instead of like, you know, what we're seeing with a lot of newer games, which is like, hey, how about like a really tight 12 to 15 hour experience that's super well polished, and everything that's in it is intentional. It's extremely fun, right? And I do want, it's interesting with Sonic, right, where like I obviously, for my sake of like even like making content or even just playing the game forever, I want a lot of hours of content, but I want it to feel that like I'm spending a lot of hours because I'm loving just the movement and running around, as opposed to let's cram in, you know, let's just put stuff to put stuff. Because yeah, like a lot of the cyberspace levels, right? Remember, people forget the biggest problem with cyberspace is that like a lot of the level layouts of cyberspace levels were just old Sonic levels sliced in and put into a level, right? Which like, to me, that's just like, yeah, that's content for content's sake, right? You know, as opposed to like, hey, the best cyberspace levels were the Final Horizon ones. They were the original ones, like the highway ones, right? Where some of them like had original layouts. Like the ones that were original layouts were super good, and then the ones that weren't, you're like, oh, this is fun because I'm just having fun playing Sonic, but it wasn't anything stand up. But I agree with you, like quality over quantity is just something I've wanted from video games a lot more nowadays. Like I will give me your best 15-hour video game that you've ever made, as opposed to a 30-hour game where like you can notice this thing. Just make it a peak experience that's tight, clean, and nice. Dude, even a game like Shadow Gens that I think is incredible, right? Genuinely, if it had like 4 more zones or like 3 more zones, I would be like, wow, that is a perfect video game, because like obviously with Shadow Gens, you still feel like, all right, it is definitely short. Like there's a point you get to where you're like, all right, I'm basically at the end. After Chaos Island, you basically feel like it's over. And so yeah, I think more quality control like that would go hard. Yes, at least need to see the ranking screens again. I really love those seeing Sonic Breakdance. Was so cool to me when I was younger. Yes, this 100%. Now I am hoping, and again, this is why I really feel like people need to pay attention to Shadow Gens. I think Shadow Gens gave us the teaser of this, right? Because again, Shadow brings back having unique animations for different rankings, especially in the DLC. If you guys remember in the DLC for the Tokyo level, right? Like there was straight up like fully completely different animation. Like when you got an S rank, there's an animation of him standing on top of the tower, landing and getting the S rank. If you get like an A rank, I do think he just kind of like he runs back and forth a little bit, and comes in front of the camera. Like those are completely different. But I would even take the level of Shadow Gens where like he skates in front of the camera with the high rank, he looks disappointed. I liked the disappointed look, right? When Shadow is mad that you got a bad ranking, that's awesome. Like I so agree with you. Like that was one of my favorite things. That's like one of my favorite things about it, like especially Unleashed, right, is like when you get a bad rank and he's just like so sad, he like walks away from the screen. Stuff like that needs to come back. I'm so with you. Like it is not satisfying just to get a screen with your ranking. I want a sick animation. Give me like, if I get an S rank, have Sonic genuinely start like running around doing a sick dance and everything. Like bring that full style back. All right, we got the Penguins, bro, saying, I'd love for it to have more focus on the side characters like Tails, Knuckles, or Amy. A plot revolving around the 3 of them would help them stand out and be more independent from Sonic, maybe in getting a new form. Something like that could also help pave the way for spin-offs. Yeah, this is definitely a discussed aspect that, again, like, whenever we get the different replies, it's so different. Like some people just want to be a Sonic journey. Some people want a overarching story. Or then there's some people that are like, hey, how about like, there's a different plot revolving the gang, and then they're dealing with something on their own. I do think that has merit, you know what I mean? Like that's something that you could look at and be like, okay, like that's, we could have Tails have a story of his own where he's trying to come up and live his life, because again, they did tee up the end of Frontiers to be like, hey, we're all gonna go on our own path and do something. And I really wonder if they're gonna stick to that, because that is such a loose, kind of ender where like you could basically just be like, all right, a few months have passed, they've each done their thing, and here they are. Or they could genuinely commit, and Tails is doing his own quest that you will join him with, right? Knuckles is doing a quest that you'll join him with. Like, they really could go either or with them. And, beyond Knuckles, Amy, Tails, we could get a lot more characters. Again, Tangle Whisper are subtly, really getting popular. We could see the Chaotix, again, have their own shine. Like, there's a lot they could do. I think Team Dark is definitely staying on the side for a bit this time around. All right, we got 007FFF saying, low-key, I want Lost World's parkour back. Maybe not exactly the same, but as Lost World had so many cool ideas as far as movement and traversal went, I'm genuinely mad they wasted it. I agree with you. I think this is everybody kind of agrees that, like, Lost World, inherently, the issue isn't that, like, the problem with Lost World isn't that parkour for Sonic is bad. Parkour for Sonic should be perfect. Like Sonic on paper should be able to run on the side of the wall, jump off to get a burst of speed into a spring, right? Running from that spring into a different platform, run through the side of the wall. Like inherently that is perfect for Sonic, right? But the problem was Lost World's level design just didn't lend itself to much creativity with the parkour, and Frontiers barely has it. There's like a little wall run you could do, but there isn't like a fully integrated parkour system. And I do want the next game to explore that. It would be awesome if, again, you could start running up a cliffside if you had enough momentum, which would be really cool, right? And there were more natural walls that you could like run towards and feel gravitated to actually want to run through. I'm with you, man. Like, I think parkour should be part of Sonic's moveset permanently. You know, you should be able to run to the top of the cliff and Sonic grabs the top of it. And if you like maybe press a button right at the top, you get like an extra spin of some kind. Like something like that would hit so hard. I'm with you, man. Bring back parkour in full. We got Phoenix saying, I need both Shadow and Silver to be playable with unique movesets fit for their characters, assuming the next game will be made similar to Frontiers. Obviously, a lot of people yearn for that Sonic 06 return of like, hey, the main three hogs all back in the fold. Here's my thing, you know, as much as some people complain about like, you know, Shadow, I do think people would still be hype if Shadow was playable in the next main game if there was a third character and that was Silver, because like, I don't know, I feel like people would lose their minds. Like 2000s kids would be losing their shit if we came back to, you know, Sonic, Shadow, Silver, the main three hedgehogs all locked in, living life together in a big, like, epic story, right? That was potentially like a sequel to 06 in some ways, and what it should have been the entire time. I'm with you. And then give them full unique. It was like, because even in Shadow Gens, remember, like, Shadow doesn't have a combat system in Shadow Gens. Like, you have the cast spears and some attacks, right? But there isn't like a full combat system the same way Frontiers does. And obviously, you know, Silver, his moveset writes itself, but they could add some extra animations to make it crazy. So please, please, please. All right, we've got Anutline saying all around just a unique art direction that looks good. That includes new models and all. I'm just a bit tired of having these cool ideas, plays, and experience be kind of tarnished with poor artistic choice. I especially dislike Sonic Shadow colors. Color grading, interesting. Okay, the one thing I'll agree with you with is that, like, I mean, I like how Sonic Shadow Gens looks, but I know what you mean, right? There is a sort of, like, there's a lack of a really, like, unique color palette, right, with, you know, the last two games, right? I want something where maybe, you know, there's a bit of shading on like some of the environments. There is a bit of a nicer, more distinct look to the game where, like, when you see it, you're like, oh, that's Sonic blank, right? You know, the same way you'd see Hi-Fi Rush, you'd be like, oh yeah, you'd see a style, you'd be like, that reminds me of Hi-Fi Rush, right? Or, oh, that reminds me of Cuphead, or that reminds me of, you know, this game. Like, I think that's what people mean sometimes. Like, that's the best way to explain it to me. When someone are like, what do you mean new art direction? I mean, like, I want a game where when I look at it, you're like, oh, that reminds me of that visually, right? Like something that's like, oh, you look at a platform, like, oh wait, like Freedom Playing, like, oh, that reminds me of like Sonic Mania or like classic Sonic, right? Something like that where like you feel that the environments and locations feel inspired by something because the art direction is so strong. So I'm kind of with you. I would like a stronger art direction that makes you go, hey, I love how that thing looks. Floof says something that hurts me, but it's true. Honestly, I'd want Sonic to take their time to just perfect how it looks. The art style and everything. Gameplay matters, of course, but I want my Sonic games looking pretty. Yeah, I mean, look, as much as I say I am hungry for the next game, I want it. I've yearned for it to even come out this year. I've always said, like, look, at the end of the day, we are at a point where I think we all want Sonic to be at its peak. You know, there is no more, like, all right, this is a step in the right direction. It's time for that direction to be stepped in. You know what I mean? Right? I think we all agree. It's like, you know, Frontiers paved the way. Shadow Gen showed what that could be like on a smaller scale. And now it's time for the full experience. You know, I need what you learned from Frontiers, what you integrated in Shadow Generations, fuse that together and make something unbelievable, and take how much time you want. I probably think that's why it's not coming out this year. I guarantee you we will get an interview at some point saying like, yeah, we wanted the Sonic game to hit the anniversary, but we just wanted to make sure that it looked good and played incredibly well before anything else. So yeah. We got Lynette Foxy over here saying, I'm a simple man. All I want is Blaze the Cat in a mainline game. Amen. I get that. It's been a hot minute since we've had some Blaze love. I mean, when was the last time Blaze made a main game appearance, right? She wasn't in Forces. She's not in Colors, at least on console. She is not really in Sonic Gen. No, I mean, no, not really. She's there for a little bit, you know what I mean? But like not really. She's not in Shadow Gens. She's not even in Forces. Yeah, it's been a minute since we've seen Blaze. I'm with you. I kind of hope we get that, you know, love for Blaze once again. Bring Girly back into the fold. I would love to see her as a main character, or however they want to do it. All right, we've got one from Soba, my good, saying, I'm not really good at answering this, but to me, it's something similar to how the characters act with one another in Frontiers. I love the one-on-one interactions a lot, probably more style deriving to parkour, more lore building. Good boost mechanics. I agree. I want, you know, some better boost. But I'm going to focus on your first part. Yeah, I did love the one-on-one interactions with the characters a lot, you know, especially everybody always, posts that clip of Sonic and Knuckles talking to each other when they're sitting down, right? Or Tails and Sonic talking about, you know, their friendship, or if he's a burden or not, you know, and you have Amy and Sonic's more relaxed, romantic story. So I agree with you. I really do like the one-on-ones. I do think, like, I want them to all feel a little bit more natural, because, you know, there's some of these ones where it is just kind of like they're standing around yapping about some lore. But I like the idea, again, of Sonic characters naturally being in the environment, and you just kind of see them doing stuff. Like, I would love the idea of, I don't know, imagine you were just exploring the islands and you just saw like Knuckles there, and he was just, you know, fighting some enemies on his own. You talk to him and he's just like telling you why he's here, what he's been up to, and then you just gotta dip. Stuff like that would be really cool and would kind of make the world feel like super alive. Or again, like I said, they should have a quest where like you go in a jungle and you just see Tangle swinging on the trees, and it's a surprise that she's there. And she's like, hey Sonic, like I was just, you know, just getting my practice and want to join in. Like something like that would hit really hard, you know, and you know, then they could talk about something. Like I agree, like the one-on-one interactions are really good. I want more of that. All right, we got David with Pizza with a unique one saying, hear me out, a side mode where you race from one point of the open zone to a random point of the open zone, the ranking system. No joke, got this idea from Death Stranding. Dude, I still don't understand why these games don't have like multiplayer side modes. Like I feel like Sonic is so inherently easy, just like have a mode where like I can pick Sonic, someone can pick Knuckles, and make it like Sonic Adventure 2 style, where you like run against one another in a stage, do the thing from those games where you can pick up an item that can screw over your opponent. Like that would be super fun. Like you guys like have all the blueprints. You literally just need to tweak a few things and boom, you have like a fun multiplayer thing. Now, obviously with Sonic, I don't want it. I want my Sonic game to be like a big single player, you know, experience, but I'm not opposed to having some side multiplayer mode that makes you go like, hey, do you want to race, right? Like I've beaten the game, you know, do you want to get through these levels against each other, see who's better at it? Like stuff like that would kind of hit, bro. Nice one over here by the Ringmaster. It says, I want hip-hop culture back in Sonic. Not just in the music, get Pink Panthers and Thundercat and that shit, but the art style. I want them to embrace Sonic's black roots through the art style, something like Spider-Verse. Tyson as design should be the basis of the models. I agree with you. You know, this is something a lot of fans talk about, right? Where they want, you know, Sonic to go back to its more inspired by hip-hop culture, which it has been a lot, especially in the early 2000s. I really do think that comes down to a bit of the art direction, but especially the music. And so I feel like, again, if Otani, Jin Sonoe, and the team like sort of look into, you know, what kind of music they want to make and the vibe they want to go with the game, I think that will stand out a lot when it comes to what they want to do. Even stuff like the smirkiness, you know, the snarkiness, the movement and everything, they could really do something cool, man. Ooh, nice one here from Zenit saying, I want an explorable city. If we're keeping open zones, we need to outdo Station Square and Soliana. I would love to go to my own little rooftop run like Sonic Adventure cutscene. Maybe a slower but flowy Sonic. I agree. I feel like we are overdue for a fun playground city area for Sonic, right? Like make a big, sick town that, you know, has stuff that I can just run around through. Like let me run, you know, to the top of a building, right onto the side of something. Like make like a tech future city that's like super sick to go through. I would love something like that. And, you know, people are gonna constantly talk about like momentum. Yeah, if you got to slow down Sonic a little bit in a city to make movement there really fun, I would take it. But yeah, I do think it's time to go back and do something like a Station Square again, because like, I mean, I love Station Square. It's such a simple area. It's not as playful as you would think. You know, you just kind of can run around some areas. But I would even just like a town. Like my thing about my problem with O6 isn't that like there is a town. My problem is just, you know, O6 is O6, but inherently going around talking to characters, doing little quests at a time is fun, you know, but just make it more of a playground. Sort of how like New Donk City and Odyssey is like a super fun playground. We got Lucas saying, I want Sonic for the late 2000s back. He easily had the best personality and style back then. Cool, confident, following his own path, so much less. This is something I agree with. You know, I think Sonic is raw in the moments, you know, but he is not inherent. Like in Sonic Frontiers, he's a very like chill character, right? You know, it's inherently cool playing as Sonic, right? And the supersonic moments are right. But yeah, like I want, you know, Sonic just being cool in every cutscene to be back. I feel like in Frontiers, it was a lot about him being mature and being there for his friends, which, you know, we needed at the time, and it felt like it was taking the tone seriously. But like, have it be that this next game is Sonic just being confident and fun in every cut, to be like, no problem, we got this, let's go. Like, you know, just that vibe. I know what you're talking about. Like, you're talking about just like the confident sign that's just like, hey, let's figure this out, and not as much of like you know, more mature conversationalist Sonic. I'm with you. I know exactly what you're talking about, and I do hope they bring that energy back. Which, like, is funny. Like, we get that in Shadow Gens, like in that cutscene where he's racing Shadow for the castle, and he just kind of like kicks his ass for the emerald, and he just kind of leaves. Like, I'm like, that's so cool. Like, that's my Sonic, you know, where he's just like, sorry, I need to borrow this emerald. Like, he doesn't ask like Shadow, like, I'm sorry, like, do you need this? Like, maybe we can help each other. Like, he kind of says like, hey, I won this race, I'm out. And that's like the type of shit I love Sonic on. All right, we got Fio Ultima saying, I want the stages to feel like part of the world, like how in Sonic Adventure, Sonic Adventure 2, Sonic Unleashed, and lesser extent, Sonic Forces, every stage had a distinct location in the world. SNL in particular took great care of its transitions. Yeah, I mean, what I adore about Sonic Adventure is that, like, yeah, like, you know why you're going to Windy Valley. You know, you activate a button that has like a wind tunnel, you go through it, boom, it's time to go to Windy Valley, right? Or like, you know, the coast, you know, the first level you go to, like you are at the hotel, walking through the beach, you know, into boom, you know, the beach area, right? Or you go to Ice Cap Zone in there by going into an icy cave that you activate. Like, I agree with you. I want that more natural integration into certain stages. Like, yeah, if you were in like an abandoned ruin, the cyberspace or speed level in there should be like an abandoned ruin. It shouldn't like just teleport you to, oh, here's a random theme. You know, it should feel more natural into the world. And like I said, dude, they really should like, listen, they got two options. They can either make it like natural part of the world, or again, use the tech you learned from Crossroads, where you really can have it so that if you run fast enough, you can go to like a portal that takes you to those levels. But I agree. I want brand new areas in the next game, and I want the cyberspace or speed levels, because those I feel like are very different than just being part of an open world. I want those levels to have a vibe to them. You know what I mean? I want them to have like a unique style to them that like integrates with the environment, and I hope the environment is cool enough that they can just be an extension of those environments. My boy Z-Man getting deep saying, I want the levels to mean something, not just something you have to complete, but going somewhere real, completing a task, getting something in time, not just a simulation or a flashback for collectibles. Make me feel like I'm on an adventure outside of just cutscenes. Yeah, no, I'm with you. Like, this is something that like I think is important, you know. The same way, look, why do you think they bring back stages, you know? They bring back stages because those stages meant something, you know? Chemical Plant felt like a moment. You're like, holy shit, this is awesome. You know, Sky Sanctuary back then felt like an awesome moment, right? City Escape felt like an iconic level or moment. And so I don't blame people for wanting that feeling in of like, oh my god, this is a Sonic level I'm going to remember forever. Now, obviously, I give Shadow Gens a pass because it's a Generations game, so it's bringing back. But even like at Kingdom Valley, is like, damn, like I fucking love Kingdom Valley, even in 06, because it's like it's got such a vibe to it. And so I'm with you. Like, I want the next Sonic game to give me an iconic level, because even as Frontiers, as much as I adore it, like, I can't really tell you an iconic level from it, you know, but a level that stands out in it is the highway, right? The highway level that's in cyberspace is the area that stands out, because like, whoa, it's like this future highway with like a million signs going around. Like, that stands out to you, right? So I'm with you, man. I want more areas that make you like feel like I'm part of this like new journey. We got my goat Cybrid here saying stylized art style and modern models based on Yukawa art, which I think is fantastic. Compelling story, obviously, momentum based movement like we've seen. More combat focused, keep other playable characters. If cyberspace levels return, remove the 2D sections. More outfits, more big scale moments, and for love of God, bring back CG cutscenes. So, you know, like I said, I'm gonna focus on 2 of these for yours. And the one that I'm gonna focus on, I agree with this: remove the 2D sections and build off Shadows. Yes. What I loved about Shadow Gens was not a single one of the main levels, like the 3D levels, had a 2D section in it. They were pure 3D through the entire time. I think they need to commit to that, right? No more of this transition from 3D to 2D, which, to be fair, Sonic Frontiers also did with its levels. Like the 3D levels were purely 3D, and the 2D ones were purely 3D for the most part. But, you know, you would have moments like Chaos Island where you're going from 3D environments to 2D. Like, I do think that full separation needs to happen. If you're gonna have a 2D section, make it a 2D section. You know, have it be a separate level, have it be its own thing. Or yeah, I mean, if they straight up want to fully, like, listen, I'm not opposed to them just fully abandoning 3D, or sorry, not 3D, 2D for the next game. The next Sonic game wants to be like, hey, bro, this is just 3D through and through. Like, I'm all in for that. And of course, on your last point, bring back CG cutscenes. I agree with you. I think a lot of games today shy away from CG cutscenes because they think like the game should look good enough to make you feel like the CG. But I'm like, dude, I could always tell when a game has a CG cutscene, and I've always thought it was awesome. You know, and I'm so down for that with Sonic. Like, just bring back the fact that when it's a big story moment or like the end of the game or whatever, it's a CG cutscene. I'm cool with that. I think a lot of people are cool with it. I think both things can exist. You know, because no matter what, CG is just gonna look different than how a video game looks. I think that's fine. You know, they could make the game look so fantastic that they don't need it, but please, man, I'm so down. We've got Bad Chat saying, I'd love for the next Sonic game to really explore the world more. I'm happy with that Unleashed gave us, but I've always wanted to see Sonic Universe of Japan, UK, Italy, and even France. Open so has much more potential to explore places unknown from the Sonic universe. That's a good idea. You know, I know obviously, you know, with Unleashed, people love that they explored the world, but obviously they didn't get to go around the entire world. And yeah, exploring more places would be really cool, or at least having areas inspired by more places around the world would also go extremely hard. I still think, you know, something like a Cherry Blossom Festival as a 3D level would go incredibly hard. You know, yeah, exploring in Ireland or Scotland, you know, where it is like an open grassy area that feels very like mysterious, sort of like a Lord of the Rings vibe to it. Like, there's a lot of places they could go to. Like you said, France has such a unique vibe to it. Like, yeah, I don't mind if the next Sonic game explores a bit more of the world, sort of Unleashed on. The nice thing about Sonic, again, is he works with anything. You can put them in realistic settings, you can put them in cartoony settings, and it'll just work because that's just how Sonic is and how it's built itself. I think it'd be pretty cool if Sonic was playable, but that might be a big ask. Yeah, I'd let that one go. A dude says, truly, I just want a Sonic Heroes too, but the ability to make a custom team rather than presets. You know, it's an interesting concept to talk about the fact that, like, how would they do that? You know, I would like for a potential game where maybe it is that, like, yeah, instead of like the gang being separated, maybe it is that like you have, you know, a Tails and Knuckles following you and you could swap between them to solve different puzzles. I still think that's like a possibility for the next game if they really wanted to lean on, you know, Sonic and the gang really working together and solving different puzzles and mechanics and things alongside each other. But I know that comes with its own challenges. Again, people are already like wanting Sonic to be full momentum and full movement. So if you have like 2 characters following you and their AI is not like up to par or anything, like, I know it would be a little bit weird, but I feel like if they really locked in, they could probably figure some way out to, you know, make teams or have some sort of mechanic where you swap between the characters. Ooh, Sayade says, I'd kill for an appearance of Surge. Yeah, no, I do think, you know, the sooner that we start to get comic characters like the IW characters in the fold, the better. Because one, I think they would make for very sick, like, you know, surprise reveals. Like, again, it would be awesome if like you were just like, you know, like a lot of games, not too many games do this. I wish more games would do this. You know, you play sometimes an open world game and then like a random event happens and it feels so natural. Like, whoa, how did this happen? You're playing Spider-Man, then one of the bad guys just swaps in and does something. Like a moment like that where like Surge just like comes out of nowhere, like you're running around, then like there's electricity, and Surge just, you know, spawns down and asks for a fight. Like that would be so fucking awesome. Like you'd be like, what the hell? Whoa, Surge is here, what? And like you get into like just like sick rival boss battle against her. Like something like that would be so sick. And in general, like I mean, Surge's story is really cool. Just having a plotline involving her would be super sick, you know. And in general, you know, there's this thing where you could do a lot with even Surge and Metal, you know, Surge being a creation, you know, to counter Sonic, just like Metal Sonic is. Like there's a conversation between these characters to be had about like, what the hell are we? Are we just like Sonic fodder? Are we our own people? Like it's a big moral dilemma that I feel like they could explore, you know. What are you after, you know, you're based on Sonic the Hedgehog, who is known to be like the symbol of like, you know, of not just peace but like hope for everybody, you know. Like can you live up to that? Do you have to be an evil version of that? How do you set yourself apart? Like they could explore that, dude. Lock in. All right, we've got Chica over here saying, honestly, for the next mainline game, it would depend on if it builds up Frontiers or Frontiers 2. I'd say I'd want Super Sonic to be playable at will or in like a post-game, maybe as a post-game story kind of thing, 100% collision, which I agree. I feel like it was criminal that like we couldn't just play as Super Sonic on the islands. You know, just make it so I could just float around for a little bit, cook some enemies faster. They should have done that. Creative design platforming challenges, and I would love it, and I wouldn't want it to be $70 unless it lived up to the price. And most importantly, please give us Sonic voice direction. He sounded better in Shadow Gens and Crossroads, but please, he sounded awful in Frontiers, not gonna lie. I don't mind him in Frontiers, but yeah, I understand some people don't like, you know, the, hey, what's going on over there? Let's do it to it. Today, we're gonna lock in. Let's go. You know, come on, Knuckles. We got this. Like, he's a bit more serious. I do want a bit more of that, like, Roger Craig Smith, like we could see it in Tales 2, we can see it in Shadow Gens, we could see it in other projects, even like the murder of what was it called? Not the murder of Sonic, you know, the Chaotix case files, right? Where you can hear like it's the snarky Sonic that can also be serious that I want them to integrate into this, please. Hey, my goat Espeon popped in saying the obvious one would be fully new locations, no more Acerias, just give me brand new stages and places never been through. A secondary one would be actual cosmetic system, give me customization options and good ass outfits I complete after chances. Dude, I agree with you, man. I feel like, dude, Sonic just looks so cool that like having a bunch of costumes that you can get through challenges and gameplay and everything just makes so much more sense. It would incentivize you to get more S ranks. It would incentivize you to play the open world more. Like costumes are just like an easy addition for platform characters to have. And I'm with you, like Espeon, like the next game just being like, hey, dude, everything's new. You know, there's not a hint of old shit. Like everything in this game is new. I would love that. I feel like that would, like, you know, be such a fun step up where we always just have something to look forward to because it is a completely new journey from start to finish. But I'm with you, man. Customization options. I would even love stuff like customization where like maybe you could unlock new taunts for Sonic. You could unlock maybe some new win animations where like if you won a level, you just did like a cool unique pose that you unlocked. Even like, you know, a new air trick animations. Like stuff like that is stuff that fans care about. That would be so cool and adds a lot to the character. Please. So GV Red Star says, in Sonic lore, we know that there were 4 major ancient civilizations before the 5th current one in Sonic's world, humans and animals. So I thought it'd be fire Frontiers to add 4 major open zone areas across the globe where remnants of each of them to explore all their lore. This would be cool, right? But you know, I'm actually gonna throw a counter to this and say, I do kind of want the next game to like feel like lore is optional, and I kind of wanted to just be like, hey, let's just have a cool story. There's some lore, you know, if you find some scrolls and some stuff. And I feel like, again, the exploration of ancients also kind of forces them into environments that are more ancient-y instead of something that could be a bit more like fun and over the top or really stylized. Like, I feel like when you limit yourself to ancient grounds, you get, you know, ancient looking areas. And so I'd be down for one of the areas to be that, but I don't know if I want all of them to be that. You know what I mean? But I like the idea. Delonic says levels have more priority over the main areas. They need to be far longer than what Frontiers gave us, and in abundance too. If we're sticking with open world, give us more side levels that last long as Shadow Gen's levels fully 3D. So I agree with this. You know, I think people are sort of, you know, not done with, but like, I think more fleshed out levels. Like, I feel like cyberspace levels always felt like, all right, here we're about to enter like a fun side experience, as opposed to like, here's a main event. You know, the levels should feel like a main event. When you unlock a speed stage, it should feel like you're about to enter a big one. Kind of like, you know, how Shadow Gens felt like, yeah, the open area was cool, but it really did feel like, yeah, when you got to the level, like you're about to do something fucking awesome. And so I want that feeling for the next game, which again, they kind of did in the Final Horizons DLC, right? Where they had like the cyberspace levels feel like these bigger levels that were a bit longer. There was a bit more to them. But I want it to be like Shadow Gens where you do them, there's like a mid-level cutscene through them, like they feel very grandiose. Like it should feel like, dude, you know the feeling of like, all right, you get in Shadow Gens, like you get to, you know, Space Colony Arc or whatever, like just having a new name, you know, like you know, the outer fields or whatever the hell, you press and you go into it, it feels like, holy shit, I'm exploring like a brand new type of boost level. That would be incredible, man. I would love that, dude. We got Captain Crooked Kingler saying, I just want to see him return. Scrapdick Lago was amazing, but his appearance and Sonic Speed Summer left something to be desired. So if Mecha Sonic can come back to the mainline games along Tango, Whisper, Surge, Kid Bell, Lana, and Jewel, that would be epic. Again, it's what I'm saying is I really do think if the next game just integrates like, hey, let's have a Sonic world, right, where you get to see these characters and stuff throughout it, would hit harder. Because again, Sonic has so many characters that it is quite literally impossible to explore every single character and every single thing you want in a game if you want to be fully like its own thing, right? And so having a side mission where you fight Mecha Sonic, or even a main thing, right, a main boss fight for him, would be really cool, right? Just make Sonic's world feel more natural, more lived in, and we'll get more of these characters. All right, two things, more abilities and challenges. I feel like after Generations, they kept giving Sonic less and less of his abilities besides his Stomp and Ring Dash. But if they bring back his Bounce, Drift, and even new abilities to work with movement, that'd be so perfect. I agree with that. Like, that's, I do want more new Sonic moves. Because, yeah, it always felt cool in Adventure when you got the Bounce. You know, you got the Light Speed Dash. You know, or you got some new move, or like, yeah, later you got the Drift in other games, right? And, or you got the Whistle in Sonic Adventure 2, right? So it's like stuff like that kind of does go, or like even in Adventure, you know, you get the Spin Dash, where I guess it is the Light Speed Dash or Spin Dash, and inside Adventure 2 it's just you hold Y to get all the rings. Stuff like that would be really cool. I mean, I would even love that for the other characters too, like when you unlock the upgraded version of digging into the walls and stuff. So I'm with you. I would like more moves that are like, all right, here's a new move you can do for your movement, and not just like expanded combat. Like, all right, now you can drift, right? And now you can unlock maybe a spin dash drift of some kind would be really cool. I know you can kind of do that with the spin dash in Frontiers, but make it more natural. I know what you mean, right? And then you said for the boss fights, I don't think a boss in the series gave me a good chance since Unleash. Now most fights are where you can just do two moves and call it a day. I honestly want to see them tackle giving us boss fights that really need to think about our next move. I agree. More difficult boss fights would hit harder, where you, like, you know, you actually have to utilize your parry very well. You actually have to learn some of the moves they're doing. I'm with you. Ooh, Chris Pickaxe says, funnily enough, what I'd absolutely love is a Sonic game with movement inspired from Jet Set or Bomb Rush. Something focused on clean movement and a nice trick system with a fun rail grinding system. Combat's a tricky one because IMO Sonic combat should either be really simple, as it is for most games, or really complex. I feel like Frontiers tried the complex angle, but I feel like with some polish and more time, it could be big. I'm going to focus on your first one, which, yeah, I also want a trick system and movement, you know, thing that kind of rewards you, right? Like, I want it to be, you know, that maybe the longer I hold my momentum, the more points I get, you know, on a little score thingy on the corner, right? Like a little S rank in the corner for even doing good movement, you know, chaining a run on a grind rail into a bounce, you know, into, you know, keeping my speed going would be a really fun thing to do. Kind of like, again, how like Jet Set does it and Bomb Rush does it, where like the more you're chaining your speed, the higher like side score you get. So something like that would hit like really hard. My coach Sholo says, I want the game to have a distinct identity more than anything. That means new models, environments, animations, the works. I'm fairly confident they can nail everything in the head, but I need the next game to look and feel like the next evolution of Sonic. I agree with this. You know, I touched on this a little bit before of no more step in the right direction. I want us to be in that full direction now. You know, I want to look at this next game and be like, I mean, this is the future of Sonic. We're here. You know, we've made it. This looks incredible. This looks like it's going to be awesome. Like, I want things to look like this and be like this. You know, I don't want another moment like the IGN presentation where people have to question or like be like, okay, this looks cool, bud. This looks cool, bud. This looks cool, bud. I want it to be like a very confident reveal, which is probably why they're taking their time to reveal it. Yeah, I'm surprised it's taken us this long to get to this. A city with humans. I'm a simple man. You know, I've talked a lot about having other Sonic characters in the world. Humans being back would be awesome. I mean, I love Sonic and humans, you know, being in the same world, right? Like meeting characters like your Professor Pickles or the Unleashed characters or the President in Sonic Adventure 2 or even Sonic Adventure, like the NPC characters you would meet, you know, like the couple or the gambling addicts or whoever the hell they were in the original Sonic Adventure. I think like that sort of, that, you know, that love for, you know, that mixture of hedgehog and human worlds together is really good. And I like the idea of them giving you side quests, asking you for help, you know, maybe wanting to learn a bit more about you. Like, shit like that would go really fucking hard. And I'm with you, man. Like, it's like the lack of humans is noticeable, and I do want them back in the next game. You know, when they're sort of teasing with characters like Professor Tori being in the fold, or they had some of those characters in Chaotic Case Files, but it's like, yeah, I like humans in Sonic, and I want them to be part of the plot again, please. All right, one we haven't gotten to, and I'm glad we're here. Rival battles again. With how the combat has been evolving so much with more Frontier and Shadow Gens, fights with Knuckles and Metal would be even crazier. I'm with you, man. A good rival battle is what I need to see again, whether it's a chase against them with a mid-level fight, whether it is a straight-up like rival battle. I want character-to-character fights back. I want it so badly. I feel like with the modern cinematics they do, you know, with like the supersonic boss fights, or even, you know, Sonic or like even Shadow versus Mephiles, stuff like that. Like, I want more arena-based character rival battles. I feel like it's an excuse to have cool cutscenes. It's an excuse for a hype song to play. It's a good fight you could even learn. Like, shit like that would hit, bro. Please give me rival battles, please. All right, now this is a difficult one. I would love to see boost integrated into adventure gameplay style somehow. This is such a tough one, right? Because a lot of people talk about how, you know, adventure styles, because even if you're looking at my screen, I'm like, adventure styles like play a lot different than they do main game, right? It's more like platformer based with some, you know, speed based moments, but it really is like a mixture. I'm sure like the fucking worst example of me like playing like shit, right? But like, you know, it's that sort of mix of being able to run around, enjoy, you know, like rolling, do your spin dashes, doing your moves and stuff, but also like, I don't know if you could fully abandon the boost because people are so used to the boost. And so maybe a middle ground where like you can use certain boosts, kind of like you could in Sonic Unleashed. You know, maybe you have a certain amount of boosts you can use, right? As well as your, you know, more platforming based gameplay that's a little less hyper speed, like obstacle course. Because the boost formula plays more like a high speed obstacle course. And then adventure games are more like a high-speed platforming level. And so I do think there's a middle ground to be had somewhere that I feel like they could figure out, or they should figure out. All right, another music-related one. I'm hoping for more vocalists from other bands, like how we got Kellen Kun for Frontiers, or maybe a new Crush 40 banger. It's been a while since we've got one of those. I very much worry about if we're ever gonna get a Crush 40 song in the game after how it's felt with the recent relationship between them and Sega slash Sonic team. I'm not too sure about what they're gonna do about that, but whether or not, you know, that is resolved or not, I do agree that I would like to see more vocalists. You know, as much as I adored Kellen Quinn and I want him back, I feel like what made Kellen Quinn so special is this: you had a new voice, you had a new style that hit like crack. You know, so potentially getting maybe some more pop artists, some more, you know, hip hop artists, you know, some more mainstream artists even, or even, you know, underground artists coming up, like just to bring some different sound to the formula. I'm always down for Sonic vocals. Those always hit hard, but you know, keep it pushing, man. I need more. All right, this is a unique idea by Coolite, a change in playstyle through the game. Doesn't need to be purely additional playable characters, although it would be nice. I think some of the best games in the series, Adventure Unleashed, all share changing playstyles, genres through the games, right? That keep you hooked on playing and getting to the next level of another genre. Sonic series has the potential to do a lot of cool stuff, and they have the past. They've been stuck to almost exclusively platforming for a while. Also, get rid of the mandatory challenge levels. Okay. I don't mind the challenge levels because it's kind of like, hey, play the game we made, but I do agree with you on like the sort of, hey, why don't we try different styles? Because we just talked about this, how like, yeah, platforming in an adventure game is much different than how you platform in Sonic Unleashed, right? Like, it's such a vastly different movement style, and so maybe finding levels, I feel like, you know, I feel like the best way to do it is just, you know, make the open world feel like adventure, right? In terms of how you're moving and going through it, and then make the like quote unquote main stages the really high speed Sonic stuff that really can show you how fast the character can go, test your reflexes and lock in, or vice versa. Or, you know, the open zone is like, hey, here's, go crazy with your movement flow, and then, you know, the main levels are going to be more like this. So I'm with you. I would like to explore that. I would even like to explore gameplay styles. Like, again, I would like to go at treasure hunting with Knuckles, as long as it's, you know, handled like it is kind of actually in Sonic Adventure 1, which I'm kind of more rooting for. But yeah, no, I'm with you, man. I would love to see more playable styles in the same game. W. Another really good one is less emphasis on intrusive minigames that aren't focused on platforming. Frontier's little minigames that were just side moving side to side felt so bad to play. Also make the homing attack more interesting somehow by making it less rigid with the automation. So yeah, you know, it's funny. This is a criticism people actually have a lot with FF7 remake and rebirth, where like there's so many mini games that like some people are like, all right, bro, am I playing a action RPG or am I playing Mario Party, right? And I do agree that like with Sonic Frontiers, there was a lot of like random games that weren't speed based. Like, yeah, when it is just the side to side move, or do the jump rope move on the island, or, you know, obviously the little floor puzzle people make fun of. Like, if you're gonna do mini games, keep them more Sonic based. Like, keep them more like, hey, fight 3 of these enemies and beat them in this amount of time, right? All right, get from platform A to platform B. That makes sense for a mini game, right? You know, collect these certain things by using this move, right? Like, stuff like that I think is better integrated than, you know, yeah, random floor puzzle that you can find, you know? So I'm with you, you know, more integrated mini games that make sense for Sonic, instead of just like, hey, here's, you know, floor puzzles and very simple mini, like, you know, little floor challenges. All right, I want a good story with a villain that isn't lackluster. So, I mean, I see what you mean. Like, the end is a terrifying concept, but it's not really a villain you're scared of throughout the game. I would like, you know, a villain to return to the fold. Again, I still think Sage and Metal Sonic using their abilities together sounds kind of cracked. And having in general Metal as the villain back into the fold would make a lot of sense. But yeah, I do think a lot of people agree that, yeah, maybe an Eggman focus once again wouldn't hit as hard. I'm sure it probably is going to be Eggman. There's going to be like another force that stops it, but I do hope whatever force that is, there's always like an extra force, right? It's like Eggman and the Zeddy, Eggman and Infinite, right? Eggman and, you know, Neo Metal, right? Or Metal Overlord, right? It's like Eggman even like with Sage, right? It's like they always do a thing where it's like Eggman and the extra demon or thing, you know, like Dark Gaia. So I hope that whatever the like Eggman and type of villain is really hits hard this time around. Oh, this is a fun one. I'd like to see water running again in the next 3D style game. I agree with that. You know, bring back some more like water running sections. It'd be cool if, you know, there was ones where like you really had to go water running, and just like you couldn't unleash, like you had to make sure you got to a platform or an enemy before you ran out of speed. So simple, but I like it. Here's another unique one, a proper leveling system. In Frontiers, it was mostly just unlocking basic attacks. I'd like a system where you can spend skill points on movement and combat options. You can unlock running over water. You could also upgrade moves like spin dash level 2 or homing attack level 4. I agree with this, right? I do think, you know, the upgrade system in Frontiers left some to be desired. Like level 99 on everything feels a little ridiculous. I would be down for like, hey, Spin Dash version 2, it has a new feature, like boom, you know, a homing attack version 2, right? You can, you know, now you can home into 2 enemies at once and destroy them, right? Or like, you know, a new version of your boost, right? Now your boost even, you know, goes to further heights. Your homing attack, or let's say your spin dash, you know, can now bounce through certain enemies, right? Let's like stuff like that where like the upgrades feel a little bit more meaningful alongside, you know, the whole ones where it is you are just shooting, right? Or like not shooting, what's it called? I'm looking at the level, that's what I'm saying, shooting. But it is, you know, beyond just like I do more damage, right? I want significant upgrades to the moves, you know, where like when you get the version 4 of Spin Dash, it's like, yeah, that's the one where like it can really jump through a bunch of chasms, you know, you can potentially roll through a bunch of enemies, like stuff like that would go really hard. I know what you're saying. Oh, I like this one by Walking Harvest. I really want them to mess with status effects and other RPG elements more. It'd make combat more interesting. I kind of agree. Like, if you were in a combat setting and you had to worry about, you know, an enemy poisoning you or having a burn effect on you that does more damage or takes away more of your rings, or, you know, or potential debuffs to your move, like, that would make you think twice about what move you want to do, or again, make you actually lock in on certain combat scenarios instead of just mashing and parrying your way through. I agree with you, Brian. Yeah, Fidel Cavio would guard, but no. On a serious note, I hope they have more animated cuts into the game, and the pop is way more better than usual. And a new character introduction. I'm saying a lot, I know, but I do agree that, you know, it's always fun to get new characters. I don't know if we need a new character right now. You know, I'm sure they're going to introduce one regardless. Maybe potentially a side partner for Sonic, but yeah, I'm okay if they want to just utilize the gang in some way, or yeah, potentially have a new like side buddy that actually follows you, like a Chip, you know, or a Tikal that follows you as a beam of light or something in the environment. All right, we've got Moonlight saying, I want us to be taken to another world. Secret Rings and Black Knight's art style and environment get praised so much because they take place in worlds and areas that are so different from Sonic's. Take us somewhere new and give us crazy ass locations. I agree, man. I do think if they want the next game to like really pop, I feel like they should have us like go some random dimension, you know what I mean, or like an alt version of reality where everything is a little crazy, whether it is, you know, a future world where everything is very different, or it's just some kind of new place that they're forced to go to that isn't much more, that's less ruin, like more, you know, crazy and weird, and some things like fun world that they've created of some kind. I'm with you, man. You know, Sonic and the Black Knight Secret Rings have really striking areas and unique vibes to them and look of them. Make that shit for the next game. Lock in. I'm absolutely down. All right, as I kept going, it did end up feeling like a lot of these same ones. I tried to grab most of the different ones we possibly could. So guys, thank you all so much for watching today's video. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. And of course, in the comment section below, as always, let me know your ideas. I will read them, and hopefully we are nearing the dawn of a new day for Sonic the Hedgehog, and I hope a lot of these ideas go through. So thank you all for watching. You guys are the best, and of course, I will see you all next time. Peace out.